welcome to week 6. This week we'd like to talk and think about inquiry enactment. This is the moment of truth where the rubber meets the road, where you're actually on stage and things are happening in the classroom. I want to address a few ideas this week. The first one is the notion of supporting the diversity in your classroom. You have all kinds of students. How do we help make sure they all get throughout the process? The second one is concerned with safety, internet safety, things that could go wrong with students, safe practices for teachers, and the ethics of using internet materials. And third, I want to talk just a little bit about how to help things go well. How do we make sure all the kids are being productive, staying on task and engaged, that there's excitement about learning, and that the right kind of talking and productivity is happening in the classroom during the activities itself. So first, let's talk about equity and diversity in the classroom. We know that students are entering our classroom with a wide range of background experiences, background knowledge. We talk about learning styles. I don't actually believe those exist. There's no cognitive evidence for them, but many people do like to use that term, and I do believe we have learning preferences. There are kids who prefer to learn one way versus another, and just how engaged the kids are in school and in class. So we have this diversity, and the question is how to treat that as something more than just a problem or something to be responded to, but rather as a feature. You know, we have a wonderful asset of this diversity. We have kids who are coming from different cultures and who maybe have different perspectives on topics. So how do we embrace diversity and make it a feature, not a bug? An important challenge that's related to this is to do with equity, the equitable distribution of resources. That can mean materials, time, and opportunities to all students. So if you have quiet students and you have a group project, there's a real challenge in making sure that those students get the most out of that design. So I want to point out that inquiry itself is very well suited to addressing these concerns or these opportunities. The whole notion of differentiated instruction, that we could, by designing effective inquiry activities, we can engage all learners coming from their own position, that we can have kids collaborate with their peers and basically leverage or benefit from the diversity there, and that we can use technology to help scaffold students and give different students or students from different backgrounds or with different abilities the supports that they need. Some of the specific challenges that I can name have to do with, first, supporting language learners. If you have English as second language students in your class, they may come across as being very good with the English language, very strong, and yet we know from research that these students often do fall behind or feel excluded from the academic language. It's one thing to be strong with playground language or everyday terminologies, but we have many words and phrases and ways of speaking that can make language learners struggle. A second one is to support the diversity of academic perspectives or inclinations. You may have students who are very dedicated and hardworking, and those who are not as much. And how do we embrace that spectrum that we will find in every classroom, and allow them all to participate and to gain from the experience. A third one is to just know and be aware of and respond to any issues that might be out there in terms of access to computers at home or to support from parents at home. We know that not all students have the same home situation, and if we include inquiry activities that rely on some work being done at home, we need to be aware of those and hopefully find some way to accommodate them. And finally, finding ways to work with that diversity, to add that into your design, to give students voice, make learning personal, and help them connect to their peers from that position of their own identity. So I'll just share a few of the strategies or approaches that I have tried in my own work. Um, Basically, foremost is to help all students feel valued, to share their voice, and to have a sense of the value in the process. Um, that can be done through peer tutoring, where you give each student a chance to talk to each other or to talk to one peer about their perspective, or small group work. If if you are using small groups, to make sure that it's not designed in such a way that one kid can dominate or that another kid can feel left out. So having roles in groups where each student must adopt a specific role or perspective can be helpful. Or if you rotate, who gets to be in charge of adding things to an application. Another way that's very important is to use formative assessments to actually get some elements of the inquiry design that capture students' ideas and their values. This gives the teacher a better sense of where students are in the process, where they're thinking about. And then if you design inquiry activities that essentially take those ideas and add them in as resources, kids are able to build on their own perspectives. Finally, a good thing to keep in mind is that there are language supports and language technologies out there, and that by letting students have access to these during class, whether it's translation support or dictionaries or other resources, this can be very helpful, and it can give the students a sense of being valued and honored. So you can speak with technology staff or support specialists in your school board and find out more about what kind of resources are there for language learners. The second main topic I want to talk about today is internet safety and ethics. So first, that technology and inquiry are wonderful ideas, and they can bring new opportunities for learning, but they also can increase vulnerability for students by letting them online, by giving them more freedom and flexibility about their activities. Engaging them even in self-expression can lead to problems and insult or hurt in the classroom. We have an issue of the internet being rather uncontrolled, and opportunities for accessing harmful materials or interaction with people on the internet could have its own concerns. As well, when we give students so much responsibility and autonomy, they do they do have an increased capability of doing harm to themselves or to others, to their peers. Correspondingly, there's an increase in the teacher's responsibility during inquiry. It's already a much more challenging way to teach. We have to keep so many things in mind and do the design and manage the materials and the activities, but now you also have to think about what students are getting into, monitoring all their activities, if they're staying on task, making sure that they're safe, making sure that you think beforehand about possible problems that could come up. Ideally, avoiding those problems and not having to respond to them, much better than the other way. So finally, that with all of this potential risk and danger, there is an opportunity for the good, the benefits of inquiry to be overshadowed or outweighed by the fear of what could go wrong. So we often find school boards and schools that lock down the internet and that make you have to put in requests for every application. And even teachers, I think, often to their own credit, are hesitant to put their students at risk or to open up these opportunities for students to get into these kind of troubles. I want to stress that this is perfectly understandable, that these risks are real. We know about them. It's very difficult to design and enact this kind of learning in the first place, and then there's a risk that actually doesn't even go well, or the kids, it falls flat somehow. So there's very good reason for teachers to be cautious and to decide that it's not worth the undertaking. This is one of the reasons we are so respectful of you, the participants, and want to acknowledge just how much we appreciate your willingness to think about taking on this kind of opportunity, but also responsibility for designing and enacting inquiry. So some of the specific challenges that I can name have to do with, first, internet access. A lot of schools use the kind of net nanny or keyword controllers, but basically by giving kids access to the internet on their own devices or on a school device, there is the potential for inappropriate content to be accessed with a single entry of one word in a Google search. We can have highly inappropriate content in our classrooms. As well, contact with the outside world could include contact with those on the internet who are looking to find students. We need to be aware of that. Further, that students can be very aggressive in their attempts to find out information about their teacher or manipulate teachers' social media. So there are concerns there about teachers protecting their own privacy and being safe and secure in their classroom environment. A second issue or challenge is concerned with phones and social media in the classroom. When we start asking students to use their phones and tablets in the classroom, there's a very real prospect that they may take this as license to use these devices for a lot of other purposes as well. And so we find the opportunity for distraction and misuse, and we have to anticipate that. As well, we know about cyberbullying and posting insults and some of the ways that phones and text messaging can be used harmfully in schools. Finally, there's the issue of property rights. This includes intellectual property on the internet. Students like to poke around, hack, try to get into places, and if we are asking our students to go and look for materials and use the internet, then in essence the responsibility is on us for making sure that they don't cross those lines of permission. Um, as well, we have our own responsibilities as teachers to understand the copyright issues and fair use issues that apply to using the internet and internet resources in our curriculum. In the face of those challenges, I want to make some points about inquiry. First of all, those challenges will apply and exist no matter what happens. So if we do not give students positive, productive experiences with the internet, with Web 2.0, with their phones and devices in the structural context of the classroom, they'll never get it from anywhere. So this is an opportunity for us to provide opportunities for such positive, productive applications of the internet in our classrooms. This can help kids develop a set of skills and knowledge about how to use the internet productively, which they will be using for the rest of their lives. They can begin to see the web as a powerful resource and a source for addressing their real problems, and not just this dangerous, I call it, den of iniquity. Second, the inclusion of inquiry and the inclusion of internet and handheld devices in our classrooms gives the teacher an opportunity to have discussions with students about these issues of privacy and respect, about the risks that are presented to them in the course of their lives. So, in essence, by including these elements in our curriculum, we're able to exercise them and to use the various opportunities that arise to have these very important conversations with our students. Third, that the inquiry activities, as we've designed them, allow for students to exercise and rehearse their lifelong learning skills. These are skills even as simple as keeping track of your password, not sharing it with anybody, how to make appropriate comments to your peers online and face-to-face. What does it mean to search for things should you avoid? If we don't practice these sorts of things, we'll never get good at them, and this is a very strong argument for including inquiry despite the risks that are inherent. Finally, I think it's important to point out that as teachers using the internet in our classrooms, we have opportunities to demonstrate this idea of critical consumerism, that yes, there are sites that aren't as strong as other sites, or sites that are actually threatening or damaging to various perspectives, but that overall There's a great set of resources that we must learn to find the ones that are valuable, to discriminate good resources from bad, and you can even get into discussions about what are the criteria for good resources. What websites should you feel are credible? A related topic to this is the issue of fair use or fair dealings. This is something that most teachers have heard about. It's essentially um, a socially agreed compact and in the form of legislation that allows teachers to use materials that they find in print or on the internet or other media for purposes of education in the classroom. This is referred to as fair use policies. There are many websites about this and many discussions about it online. Here's a video of a website from the Center for Media and Social Impact that is all about, at least they have a major treatment of the issues of fair use for different kinds of instruction, including articles about fair use in culture. In other countries, there are other policies and other laws, often referred to as fair dealings. So here's the Wikipedia page on fair dealings, just to show you what type of material is there. For example, it defines fair dealings, and then it goes into specific detail about fair dealings in many different countries. I would also consult with your school and your school board's internet use policies. Most school districts have very clear descriptions of what is okay with the internet in your classroom. Finally, if you're engaged in social media as a producer, if you have a blog or you have a website of your own, or you're doing something with your students that are publishing materials online, be careful about crossing the lines of fair use. It's one thing to bring media into your classroom as part of a lesson. It's another one to publish it on the web or post it, reusing somebody else's content. So that could be a gray area in fair use. So just to summarize here, first, teachers have to manage their own social media. This includes your Facebook page. If you have a normal Facebook page and you give students access to that page, be very careful that, well, just don't give students access to your Facebook page. There's too much that can go wrong. Second, make sure you're managing and curating your students' social media. So if they're collecting observations or photos or web pages, you need to be right on top of that and watching all the content. Make sure that nothing illicit goes up there. Discuss the process with them and tell them that you're watching. Make sure they know the consequences if they are caught doing anything illicit. Often this kind of aspect of being monitored is enough, most often, to keep them from crossing those lines. Finally, I think we're really important to participate. As someone who designs these media activities, you need to be in there with your students. You need to be in their websites with them. If they're building a Pinterest board, you need to go to that Pinterest board. If they're having online discussions, participate in those online discussions. So this is also to have meaningful discussions with them about these issues, about safe practices, about respecting personal space, privacy, security, and just how good the internet can be. So those are the opportunities that you have as a teacher, and to kind of mitigate or handle these risks. And I think the basic point is that you take them head on, you acknowledge them with your students, and you make sure that all issues are anticipated and caught early if anything is going wrong. The third main point I wanted to talk about today is enacting inquiry. Okay, so the subtitle here, what could go wrong? Answer everything. Anything can go wrong. This is not about the issues of planning, where we don't have good internet at our schools, or I don't have enough curriculum time to allow for inquiry. Those are real issues. We took those up in week 2. This is about, I've designed this. I'm ready to go. Now what? Okay. So one question that I'm often asked, and that I also experience even in this MOOC, is how do we make sure they're engaged? I can design the best activity in the world that I think, but how do I'm not lecturing anymore. I'm not in control of the room. I've got them all at table groups or sitting there with computers. How do I make sure that they're staying on task, that they're liking this, that they're talking to their peers about the things they're supposed to be, and that they're kind of being productive, and don't get distracted. Um, some of the students may not have, teachers say they're not ready for this, or some of my kids aren't ready for this, some of them are. Um, you're not going to know some of those limits until you actually try it. So this is a real concern at an enactment time. Another one has to do with technology. Almost certainly, technology is going to fail. That is a very good reason not to use technology. So again, this is why we appreciate so much those of you who are here, because it is risky to use technology in the classroom. If it goes wrong, if something's crashing, if you have too many hands up in the air at the same time, you literally have to reel it back in and fall back and go to a backup plan. So obviously testing everything beforehand, making sure that you personally have worked through everything, pretending you're a student. But if there is a limited limitations in the internet service or in the kind of support you get in your school, this can be a very real concern. And third, scheduling and calendar problems. These happen every year to teachers, best intentions notwithstanding. Especially at the end of the year, you have issues of calendar days getting lost to assembly or to snow days. Maybe another lesson or unit that you were running ran long, or in other words, you suddenly find yourself without the time that you needed to do a proper job of the inquiry design. So these are all very real concerns that would threaten enactment of an inquiry lesson. Here are some of the approaches that I can recommend for anticipating and responding to those challenges. First, you have to try this kind of approach to learn how to do it well. You cannot take a MOOC, and even if you're in the design team, that's not going to be enough. You'll have to try it first. I recommend small doses. If you're planning a big inquiry lesson that involves using a blog, for instance, maybe try the blog as a standalone first, and just let kids try one activity where they're just adding blog posts. So in other words, fold things in slowly and use the same kind of thing multiple times, so that gets both the students and yourself the familiarity and flexibility with those elements. Same with mobile and handhelds. If you're planning on using them for a major project, first try them with something more mundane and something very simple in the classroom, and that way both the students get used to using it, and so do you. Second, this is always said, don't be a sage on the stage, be a guide on the side. I prefer my own version of that, which is mentor at the center. So you should try to find yourself out in the classroom, sitting at a table, listening to students, talking to them about their ideas, checking in with them, helping them to go forward. So your role in that table group at that moment is to be a mentor and to help them make progress. Then you go to the next table group. An important extension of that is synthesis. By having those experiences at one table group and then another and maybe a third, and you're listening to students and you're talking to them, you'll get ideas and you'll get important messages that you want to give to the entire class. So at that point, you stop everyone. I don't know your tricks for doing that, but you can tell them to turn their laptop screens down, or to flip their phones over, and you share with them in a sort of a mini lecture what these synthesizing ideas that you've taken home. So these are some of the approaches that I've used, that I've seen excellent teachers using in their classroom, and I hope you'll try them and you'll develop your own fluency with using these inquiry and technology elements in your own teaching. One final concept or strategy that I want to share with you is what I call teacher communities. I've been hoping for these and working on trying to make them happen for more than a decade, and with some confidence that gradually they will be happening. As social media have come in and we've all become more familiar and comfortable with them, they have been happening. These are professional communities of teachers, sometimes focused on a special topic area or SIG, mathematics, for example, or science. Um, there are many of these now online, and you'll have trouble finding the right one or finding any, active one or good one to participate in. So here's one community that I've been following. I think it's a good example of some of the ideas that we're talking about. It's the Ontario Teachers Resource and Idea Sharing Community. It's a closed group, a Facebook group, meaning you have to request entry. It's got 23,000 members, so obviously this is open to any teachers of any discipline or any age level. It's been very active and wonderful to read the kind of questions and contributions that teachers have made, asking for advice, posting resources, advice on a math textbook or workbook. They use the photos page or feature of Facebook to help share students' work, to help share their classroom configurations, assessments, and various images that can almost serve as a Pinterest board for them. They share files in the form of assessments and lesson plans, a calendar activity that they use. So again, it's been very, very active and a very productive social experience for the teachers that are involved. Hopefully you'll be able to find a community that you can plug into and begin participating yourself. The purposes and roles for these are obviously an obvious one: to share and exchange lessons. Now that you've designed an inquiry lesson of your own, why hide it? Why harbor it? Share it with your peers. Maybe somebody can take that lesson and turn it into something that fits their own students, or maybe they can actually improve it and share it back. As well, advice and insights. If you're having problems or there's a policy that you're unsure of in your own school, maybe you can go online and get advice and get others' experiences to help you make sense of your own. Networking is always big in society. We have LinkedIn now and Facebook and all of these kind of social networks. I think teachers are beginning to network as well. This goes beyond just discussing ideas and opportunities, but also even potential job opportunities, sharing those around and being supportive of one another. Finally, I think teacher communities Finally, I think the idea of a teacher community is one that supports identity. You come to know yourself as a teacher by rehearsing in these discussions, much as you have done in this MOOC. And the online community gives you a place where you can do that, where you can share and exchange with others. You can have a feeling of membership and a feeling of importance in your role in society. Well, that's about it from at least from my personal video comments to you. I've enjoyed being able to sit and share these insights over the weeks. I want to add thanks from all of our group here. The 6 people pictured in this slide have all put a ton of work into this MOOC over the weeks, these 6 weeks, but many weeks beforehand. The other members listed there below have put a lot of time in as well. I hope you had a great summer. There's another few weeks left for some of you, and enjoy that. And good luck in the teaching, and we'll see you online.